Did you know that some of the reggae stars died in a tragic way? From Hugh Mundell, the young musician who was shot and killed in his car during a dispute in Kingston, to Carlton Barrett, the legendary Wailers drummer who was ambushed and gunned down outside his home. Here are 15 reggae stars who died tragically. Peter Tosh. Peter Tosh was a legendary reggae musician from Jamaica. He was one of the founding members of the Wailers alongside Bob Marley and Bunny Wailer before becoming a successful solo artist and a strong voice for the Rastafari movement. Tosh died on September 11, 1987. On the evening of that day, Tosh returned home to Jamaica after a trip. Not long after, 3 men arrived at his house on motorcycles, demanding money. Tosh told them he had none, but they didn't believe him. The gang, led by a man named Dennis Lobban, someone Tosh had once helped after his release from prison, refused to leave. Instead, they held Tosh hostage and tortured him for hours, hoping to force him to hand over money. As time passed, several of Tosh's friends stopped by his home, unaware of the danger inside. One by one, they were taken hostage too. The situation grew more chaotic until, finally, Lobban and his men lost patience. In a reckless outburst, they opened fire. Tosh was shot twice in the head and killed. 2 others, herbalist Wilton Brown and radio DJ Jeff Dixon, also died from gunshot wounds. Several more people, including Tosh's partner, Andrea Marlene Brown, were injured in the attack. The police quickly launched an investigation. Lobban later turned himself in, while 2 other men were questioned but not publicly identified. During his trial, Lobban insisted he was innocent, claiming he had been drinking with friends that night. However, the jury didn't believe his story. He was found guilty and sentenced to death by hanging. Years later, in 1995, his sentence was reduced to life in prison. One of the other suspects was released due to a lack of evidence, and the remaining 2 gunmen were never officially identified. Bob Marley. Bob Marley was a Jamaican singer, songwriter, and guitarist, known around the world as one of the pioneers of reggae music. He blended reggae with elements of ska and rocksteady, creating a unique sound that carried powerful messages of love, unity, and resistance. His music brought Jamaican culture to the global stage, making him not just an artist, but a symbol of hope and change. But despite his success, Marley's life was cut short before he could reach his full potential. In July 1977, he was diagnosed with a rare form of skin cancer called acral lentiginous melanoma. It started as a dark spot under the nail of his right big toe. Some people believed it was caused by an injury he got while playing football, but in reality, the cancer had already been there. Marley had to visit 2 doctors before a biopsy was done, confirming the disease. Doctors advised him to have his toe amputated to stop the cancer from spreading, but Marley refused. He believed that removing any part of his body went against his religious beliefs. Instead, he had only the nail and the affected tissue removed, with a skin graft taken from his thigh to cover the area. Even as his illness worsened, Marley continued performing. In 1980, he went on a massive world tour, playing to the biggest crowds of his career. His largest concert took place in Milan, Italy, where 100,000 fans gathered to see him. On July 6, 1980, he performed his final outdoor concert in Dublin, Ireland. After that, he traveled to the United States, playing 2 sold-out shows at Madison Square Garden in New York City as part of his Uprising tour. Then, on September 21, 1980, while jogging in Central Park, Marley collapsed. He was rushed to the hospital, where doctors discovered that his cancer had spread to his brain, lungs, and liver. His health rapidly declined, forcing him to cancel the rest of his tour. Desperate for a cure, Marley sought alternative treatment at a clinic in Germany, but after 8 months, it became clear that the treatment wasn't working. Realizing his time was running out, Marley decided to return home to Jamaica. But during the flight, his condition worsened. When the plane landed in Miami, Florida, he was rushed to Cedars of Lebanon Hospital, where he passed away on May 11, 1981, at just 36 years old. His final words to his son Ziggy were, "On your way up, take me up. On your way down, don't let me down." Dennis Brown. Dennis Brown was a Jamaican reggae singer, known for his smooth voice and heartfelt lyrics. His career began at an astonishingly young age, just 11 years old in the late 1960s. Over the years, he recorded more than 75 albums, becoming one of the biggest stars in lovers rock, a romantic subgenre of reggae. Even Bob Marley, the king of reggae himself, called Brown his favorite singer and gave him the title the Crown Prince of Reggae. His big break came in 1972 when producer Joe Gibbs invited him to record an album. One of the songs from that project, Money in My Pocket, became a massive hit, especially in the UK reggae scene. The song quickly became a fan favorite at his concerts. Brown followed it up with other hits like Cassandra and No More Will I Roam. However, by 1973, the young singer's success came at a cost. He was working so hard that he ended up in the hospital from exhaustion. At the time, rumors spread that he was gravely ill. Some even claimed he only had one lung or had tuberculosis. Doctors advised him to take a break from performing, so he stepped back for a while to focus on his studies. Despite these challenges, Brown continued making music for decades. His 1994 album, Light My Fire, was nominated for a Grammy Award, as was his final album, Let Me Be the One. But by the late 1990s, Brown's health had started to decline. Years of substance use had taken a toll on his body. In May 1999, after a tour in Brazil, he became seriously ill and was diagnosed with pneumonia. When he returned to Jamaica on June 30th, 1999, his condition worsened. That evening, he was rushed to Kingston's University Hospital, where he suffered from cardiac arrest. Doctors worked tirelessly to save him, but the next morning, on July 1st, 1999, Dennis Brown passed away. The official cause of death was a collapsed lung. He was only 42 years old. Garnet Silk. Garnet Silk was a Jamaican reggae artist with a voice that was both powerful and smooth. He was deeply connected to his Rastafarian faith, and his music reflected themes of love, spirituality, and cultural pride. His big break came in 1992 when he recorded his first album, It's Growing, with producer Bobby Digital in Kingston. The album became one of the best-selling records in Jamaica that year, and Silk gained international recognition with his hit song, Hello Mama Africa. The track, produced by Richard Bell, topped the reggae charts in Britain and cemented his place as a rising star. In the following years, his success continued to grow. The 1993 album Gold, released in the UK, featured several of his popular songs, including Zion in a Vision, which became a #1 hit in Jamaica. However, fame and constant work took a toll on him. While performing at the Ritz in New York City, he collapsed from exhaustion and low blood pressure. Doctors told him to take a 6-month break, forcing him to cancel all upcoming shows, including what would have been his debut at Reggae Sumfest, Jamaica's biggest reggae festival. Silk returned in 1994, stronger than ever, and continued making music. He teamed up with producers Steely and Clevie to release Love Is the Answer, another massive hit. He had also signed an international deal with Atlantic Records and began working on his second album at Tough Gong Studios, with some of Jamaica's best musicians, including Aston Barrett, Sly and Robbie, and Tyrone Downey. The album was nearly complete when tragedy struck. On December 9, 1994, while visiting his mother in Mandeville, Jamaica, Silk was sitting with friends when they decided to check out a pair of guns he had borrowed for protection after his home had been burglarized. None of them were familiar with handling firearms, and as one of the guns was being examined, it accidentally went off. The bullet struck a propane tank, causing an explosion that set the house on fire. Silk, his friends, and his 2 brothers managed to escape safely, but then they realized his mother was still inside. Without hesitation, Silk ran back into the burning house to save her. Tragically, neither of them made it out. Garnet Silk's death at just 28 years old was a devastating loss for reggae music. Jacob Miller. Jacob Miller was a Jamaican reggae singer from Mandeville. He started singing at a young age and recorded his first songs when he was just 13 years old at Studio One, working with legendary producer Clement Dodd. However, his early songs didn't gain much attention, and he was overshadowed by other young reggae stars like Dennis Brown and Delroy Wilson. His career really took off when he met Augustus Pablo. Pablo saw Miller's potential and recorded several songs with him, including Keep On Knocking, Baby I Love You So, and Who Say Jah No Dread. These songs became reggae classics and helped define the rocker's style of reggae. Pablo later introduced Miller to Inner Circle, a popular band that played covers of American pop and soul songs. In 1974, Miller joined the band as their lead singer, and together they developed a unique sound that blended roots reggae, rock, and funk. Their music gained international attention, and after signing a deal with Island Records, they began touring in Europe and the US, bringing reggae to a wider audience. In March 1980, Miller traveled to Brazil with Bob Marley and Island Records founder Chris Blackwell to celebrate the opening of Island's new offices in South America. After returning to Jamaica, tragedy struck. On March 23, 1980, Miller was driving through Kingston with his young son and two friends. He was on his way to Bob Marley's house to play football when he lost control of the car while approaching a bend. The vehicle crashed into a utility pole with such force that it split in two. Miller and his son died instantly, while his two friends survived with serious injuries. He was only 27 years old. At the time of his death, Miller and Inner Circle were preparing for an American tour with Bob Marley and the Wailers. Prince Far I. Prince Far I was a Jamaican reggae DJ and producer. His journey in the music world started humbly. First as a DJ on the Sir Mike the Musical Dragon sound system, then as a security guard at Joe Gibbs' studio, and later as a bouncer at Studio One. In 1969, his big break came unexpectedly. When fellow DJ King Stitt failed to show up for a recording session, producer Coxsone Dodd gave Prince Far I a chance to step in. He seized the opportunity, launching a career that would make him one of reggae's most distinctive voices. His first album, Psalms for I, included the Lord's Prayer and various psalms, allowing illiterate listeners to experience scripture through music. He then worked with Joe Gibbs to release his second album, Under Heavy Manners, before signing with Virgin Records under their Frontline label. Between 1978 and 1981, he released 12 albums, including the famous Cry Tough Dub Encounter series. Prince Far I continued to perform worldwide, with his final live show taking place on December 7, 1982, at Band on the Wall in Manchester, England. That performance, featuring the group Sons of Arca, was later released as the album Musical Review. In 1983, he collaborated again with Sons of Arca on their album Wadada Magic. That same year, he started working on a new album, Umkhonto We Sizwe, with producer Roy Cousins in Kingston. But before he could finish it, something tragic happened. Prince was at home in Kingston when robbers broke in. The attack, allegedly linked to a money dispute, ended in violence. He was shot and later died in the hospital. His murder deeply affected the reggae community, especially producer Adrian Sherwood, who was so devastated that he stepped away from reggae production for a time. If you are enjoying this video, appreciate it by giving it a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. Lucky Dube. Lucky Philip Dube was a South African reggae musician and a proud Rastafarian. At the start of his career, Doobie performed under the name Lucky Dube and the Super Soul. However, after releasing his fifth album, his sound engineer, Dave Siegel, suggested that he drop Super Soul and perform simply as Lucky Dube. Around this time, while performing live, he noticed that the audience reacted strongly to the reggae songs in his set. Inspired by this, Dube shifted his focus to reggae, and it proved to be a great decision. His music quickly gained popularity, and he went on to release many successful albums. In 1989, his album Prisoner won 4 OKTV awards. The following year, Captured Live won another award. And in 1991, House of Exile earned him 2 more. His 1993 album, Victims, was a massive success, selling over 1 million copies worldwide. However, tragedy struck on the 18th of October, 2007. Dube had just dropped off 2 of his 7 children at their uncle's house in Rosettenville, a suburb of Johannesburg, when he was attacked by armed robbers. The attackers wanted his car, a Chrysler 300C, but they didn't seem to recognize who he was. Without warning, they opened fire. Dube tried to escape, but he lost control of the car and crashed into a tree. His teenage son managed to get out of the vehicle and ran for help, while his 16-year-old daughter, who was also inside the car, was left unharmed but deeply shaken. Following an investigation, 5 men were arrested in connection with the murder. 3 of them were found guilty on 31st March 2009, while 2 others tried to escape but were caught. All 3 convicted killers were sentenced to life in prison. King Tubby. King Tubby was a Jamaican sound engineer who forever changed the world of music. In the 1960s and 1970s, he played a key role in creating dub music, a style that focused on remixing and reshaping songs with deep bass, echo effects, and creative use of studio equipment. His approach was revolutionary, and he became as famous as the musicians themselves. Some even say he was the inventor of the remix. As reggae artist Mikey Dread once said, King Tubby truly understood sound in a scientific way. He knew how circuits worked and what the electrons did. That's why he could do what he did. Tubby built his own sound system, a massive speaker setup used for playing music at events. He named it Tubby's Hometown Hi-Fi, and it quickly became one of the best in Kingston, attracting top DJs and selectors. Legendary producer Duke Reed hired him to work at Treasure Isle, one of Jamaica's top studios. There, Tubby had access to original studio recordings and could experiment however he wanted. Alongside fellow engineer Ruddy Redwood, he started remixing songs by removing vocals, rearranging instruments, and adding echo, delay, and phase effects. But despite his success, Tubby's life ended in tragedy. On February 6, 1989, he was shot and killed outside his home in Duhaney Park, Kingston. He had just returned from his studio in Waterhouse when the attack happened. Some believe it was a failed robbery, but no one was ever arrested for his murder. Though he died at the young age of 48, King Tubby's influence never faded. His work is still being reissued, and new generations of artists continue to learn from his groundbreaking sound. Sugar Minott. Sugar Minott was a Jamaican reggae and dancehall legend. His journey began at Studio One, Jamaica's most famous recording studio, where he worked under producer Clement Dodd. Starting as an apprentice, he quickly proved himself as a talented singer, guitarist, and percussionist. But what set Minott apart was his unique ability to write new songs over existing rhythms. His first hits, including Vanity, Hang On Natty, Mr. DC, and Jah Jah Children, gained him recognition. But it was his 1977 album Live Loving that made him a star. The album is now seen as one of the first true dancehall records, blending classic reggae with a fresh, energetic sound. He followed this with Bittersweet and Ghettoology in 1979. His 1980 album, Roots Lovers, introduced a softer, romantic style known as Lovers Rock, which became a hit, especially in the UK. He eventually moved to the UK and became a key figure in the country's reggae scene. Over the years, he released more successful songs, including Run Come, Not For Sale, African Girl, and In a Dis Ya Time. One of his biggest hits was Good Thing Going, a cover of a 1971 song by Michael Jackson. The track became a UK chart hit in 1981, reaching number 4 and leading to an album of the same name. Sadly, on July 10, 2010, Minott passed away at the University Hospital of the West Indies in St. Andrew Parish, Jamaica. While the exact cause of his death was never revealed, he had been struggling with heart problems since early 2009 and had canceled performances due to chest pains in May 2010. Smiley Culture. Smiley Culture was a British reggae singer and DJ who became famous for his fast chat style of rapping. Though his time in the spotlight was short, he made a huge impact with two of the most celebrated reggae songs of the 1980s. His big break came in 1984 with the release of Police Officer, a song that told the story of how he was once arrested for carrying cannabis, but was let go when the officer recognized him as a famous reggae artist. Surprisingly, the song became a hit, selling 160,000 copies and reaching the UK top 20 charts. Following the success of Police Officer, another of his songs, Cockney Translation, was re-released. The track explained the differences between Jamaican patois and Cockney slang, gaining airplay on BBC Radio 1 and selling 40,000 copies. However, years later, his life took a tragic turn. In July 2010, he was arrested and charged with conspiracy to supply illegal substances. He appeared in Croydon Magistrates Court on September 28, 2010, and was set to stand trial on March 21, 2011. Just days before his trial, on March 15, 2011, Smiley Culture died in a shocking and mysterious way. While police officers were searching his home in Warlingham, Surrey, he stabbed himself in the heart. The police claimed it was self-inflicted, but many questioned how this could have happened with officers present. His death occurred about an hour and a half after the police arrived with a search warrant related to smuggling. The case was investigated by the Independent Police Complaints Commission, but their final report was never made public. Even Smiley's family wasn't allowed to see it. In the end, no charges were brought against the 4 officers who were inside the house when he died. Mikey Dread. Mikey Dread was a Jamaican singer, producer, and radio broadcaster who changed the face of reggae music. His journey began with a song called Barber Saloon, a playful and catchy track that blended rapping and singing. This fresh new sound became known as the Sing-Jay style in Jamaica. People loved it, and the song became a local hit. Soon after, he released Love the Dread, another popular track that earned him his famous stage name, even though he didn't actually grow dreadlocks until much later. By the late 1970s, Mikey Dread started his own record label, DATC, Dread at the Controls, where he worked with artists like Eddie Fitzroy, Sugar Minott, and Earl 16. He also produced his own albums, including Evolutionary Rockers, which was released in the UK as Dread at the Controls, and World War III. Mikey's music soon reached beyond Jamaica and caught the attention of the British punk band The Clash. In 1980, The Clash invited Mikey to England to tour with them, and he even produced their hit single, Bank Robber. He performed on several songs for their album Sandinista, and toured across Britain, Europe, and the US, winning new fans everywhere he went. Mikey Dread's influence didn't stop there. Over the years, he worked with major artists like UB40, Bob Dylan, Carlos Santana, and Macka B. He also produced music for Junior Murvin, Wally Bucker, Sunshine, Jah Grundy, Rod Taylor, and many others. Decades later, in October 2007, Mikey's family announced that he was battling a brain tumor. Despite the diagnosis, he stayed positive and fought bravely against the illness. Sadly, on March 15, 2008, he passed away at his sister's home in Stamford, Connecticut. Hugh Mundell. Hugh Mundell was a rising star in roots reggae, a gifted singer with a powerful message. His journey into music began when a family friend, reggae performer Boris Gardner, introduced him to the scene. One day, while hanging out at Joe Gibbs' studio, he watched as Winston McAnuff recorded the song Malcolm X. That same day, Joe Gibbs gave Mundell a chance to record his own song, Where is Natty Dread? Though it was never officially released. While at Gibbs' studio, Mundell met Augustus Pablo, a well-known musician and producer. Pablo saw Mundell's talent and invited him to work together. Between 1976 and 1978, they recorded songs that would become Mundell's legendary debut album, Africa Must Be Free, by 1983. The album, produced by Pablo and written entirely by Mundell, became a classic in roots reggae. 2 tracks, Let's All Unite and Why Do Black Man Fuss and Fight, were even recorded at Lee Scratch Perry's famous Black Ark studio. The album received 5 stars from Rolling Stone magazine and was later included in the book 1,000 Recordings to Hear Before You Die. On October 14, 1983, Mundell was shot and killed while sitting in his car on Grants Penn Avenue, Kingston. His wife was in the passenger seat and Junior Reid was in the back. The shooting happened after Mundell had reported a burglary at his home. The brother of the burglar confronted Mundell, demanding his release. An argument broke out, and in moments, Mundell was shot. 2 years later, Ricardo Codrington, a 25-year-old man, was arrested and sentenced to 10 years in prison for manslaughter. But the reggae world had already lost a bright and promising artist. By the time of his death, Mundell had recorded 5 albums and many singles. General Echo. General Echo was a reggae DJ who changed the game with his bold and sometimes controversial lyrics. Unlike many reggae artists of his time who focused on cultural and social issues, General Echo became famous for lyrics that were playful, risque, and often sexual. Because of his unique style, some people called him the most original DJ since Big Youth. His influence spread far beyond Jamaica, especially in the United Kingdom, where many reggae artists were inspired by his music. He first made a name for himself performing on popular sound systems like Gemini, Stereophonic, and Ray Symbolic. Later, he launched his own sound system, Ecotone Hi-Fi, and became one of the first major artists to gain fame through Yard Tapes recordings of live dance hall performances that spread his music far and wide. One of his biggest hits was Drunken Master, produced by George Fang. But his true breakthrough came with Arlene, a song recorded on Winston Riley's rhythm. The track became a #1 hit in Jamaica, and its success led to his album, The Slackest. Later, he worked with legendary producer Henry Laws to release 12 Inches of Pleasure. But just as his career was reaching new heights, tragedy struck. In 1980, General Echo was shot and killed by the police in Kingston, Jamaica. He was in a car with Flux, the selector from his Ecotone sound system, and Leon Johns, the owner of Stereophonic. The police stopped their car, and for reasons that remain unclear, all 3 men were shot dead. To this day, the full story behind the incident has never been explained. General Echo's death sent shockwaves through the reggae community. As a tribute, the duo Clint Eastwood and General Saint released a song called Tribute to General Echo, honoring his legacy. Carlton Barrett. Carlton Barrett was a legendary Jamaican drummer, best known for his work with Bob Marley and the Wailers. His drumming style was groundbreaking, especially his syncopated broken triplet pattern on the hi-hat, which became a signature sound in reggae music. His powerful drum intros and rhythmic creativity helped shape many of Bob Marley's greatest hits. Barrett's journey in music started in the 1960s, when he performed alongside his brother, Aston family man Barrett. Together, they played under different band names, including the Soulmates, the Rhythm Force, and later, the Hippie Boys. This group included talented musicians like Max Romeo, Leroy Brown, Delano Stewart, Glenn Adams, and Alva Lewis. Then, in 1969, the Barrett brothers joined the Wailers, a move that would forever change reggae music. While touring and recording with Bob Marley, Carlton Barrett also played on albums for other major Jamaican artists. His drumming can be heard on Bunny Wailer's Blackheart Man, Augustus Pablo's King Tubby's Meets Rockers Uptown, and Peter Tosh's Legalize It and Equal Rights, among many others. However, Barrett's life ended in tragedy. On April 17, 1987, he was shot and killed outside his home in Kingston, Jamaica. He was only 36 years old. The case shocked the reggae community, and years later, in 1991, his widow Albertine Barrett was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder. Also sentenced were Glenroy Carter, a taxi driver who was allegedly her lover, and Junior Bang Neal, the man accused of carrying out the shooting. Tabby Diamond. Tabby Diamond was the soulful voice behind the Mighty Diamonds, one of Jamaica's most beloved reggae groups. He was a founding member of the trio, alongside Lloyd Ferguson and Fitzroy Simpson. When they formed the group in 1969, they decided to add Diamond to their names. With their smooth harmonies and conscious lyrics, the Mighty Diamonds became a cornerstone of roots reggae. Their 1976 debut album, Right Time, launched them to international fame, and songs like Pass the Coochie and I Need a Roof became reggae anthems. Their impact on the genre was so great that in 2021, they were honored with Jamaica's Order of Distinction, a national award recognizing their contribution to music. But on March 29, 2022, a shocking incident occurred. Tabby Diamond was killed in a drive-by shooting in Kingston, Jamaica, at the age of 67. He had been sitting outside on McKinley Crescent with a group of people when gunmen opened fire. The attack left another person dead and 3 others injured. Police suspected that the shooting could be linked to a local gang conflict and were investigating whether it had anything to do with Tabby's son, who was in police custody at the time for murder. Which of these reggae artists' deaths shocked you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest content.